What up, what up, what up? Welcome to the Hot Button Sports Show. I am your host, Isaac Lane. And in today's episode, I want to talk about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, we all know that there is a current contract dispute or quarrel with the team. Let me just read some of this report. The agent for Kyler Murray, who was also the agent for Cliff Kingsbury, which, I'm not saying it's never happened, but it's the first time I actually heard of that, star player and coach having the same agent. Eric Burkhart, I believe that's how you pronounce the agent's name. And they wrote and issued the Arizona Cardinals organization a letter, and they wanted to make two things clear. Number one, Kyler Murray wants to win. We'll talk about that in a minute. And he's not going to want to play this year under the current contract that he is under. In fact, the exact words was they sent a detailed contract proposal to the organization, and they want to see if it aligns with, they want to see if the Arizona Cardinals organization and their desires for Kyler Murray aligns with Kyler Murray's desires for the organization. And they are looking for a contract that is market level for all the other quarterbacks in the league. His salary is going to be lower for the 2022-2023 season, and that's simply because they paid him a lot of money up front. He's only owed $5.5 million this season, and he basically wants them to prioritize his contract going forward. Let me say this. First and foremost, I have no problem with any player, especially a quarterback, and especially an African-American quarterback, getting his paper. And that's for any player, in spite of race. Get your money, get your paper. It is a dangerous sport. It is a violent sport. But I don't know. It's just something about this whole entire Kyler Murray contract issue that doesn't sit well with me. First of all, it was reported after the loss this season in the playoffs. After that loss, it was reported that he, didn't take the high route, that he was blaming everybody else for the loss. He was complaining. He was being a crybaby, if you will, and that teammates and people from the organization as a whole were kind of turned off by Kyler Murray's antics. And I just got to say, it sounded like, and it continues to sound like, Kyler Murray is blaming everyone for the end of the year, latter of the year debacle of the Arizona Cardinals, except for himself, and specifically the playoff loss, the first round playoff exit. Seems like blaming everyone except for himself. And I have a problem with that. And I also have a problem with Kyler Murray acting as if he is the savior of the Cardinals organization. Now, when we talk about contracts and when we talk about what a quarterback specifically, what he means to a football team, it's all contextual, right? You cannot remove that quarterback out of the context of the team in which he plays for. Now, if Kyler Murray was putting up the numbers and bringing the fanfare to the Arizona Cardinals, bringing the fanfare that he has brought to the Arizona Cardinals to the New York Football Jets, then I wouldn't have nothing to say. I wouldn't have nothing to say. If he was doing this for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would not have anything to say. Maybe even if he was doing this for the Miami Dolphins, I would not have anything to say. But let's be clear, people. He is doing this for the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals for the last decade have been a solid football franchise. We're not talking about, the Buccaneers, right? How 15 years without a playoff appearance, 15 plus years without a playoff appearance, constantly 4-12, 5-11. Once in a blue moon, might go 7-9. That's not what we're talking about here. The Arizona Cardinals have been a competent football franchise for the last decade. Watch this. In the last 9 seasons, the Arizona Cardinals have had 6 winning seasons where they have been at least 500 or above. Within the last 9 seasons, 10-6. All right, 10-6, 11-5, 13-3, 7-8, 8-8, 3-13, 5-10, 8-8, 11-6. This is not a team that was just at the bottom feeding. The Arizona Cardinals aren't bottom feeders. So I have a very difficult time with looking at Kyler Murray and what he's brought to this franchise and saying he's the savior of this franchise. This franchise didn't need saving. All they needed was a competent head coach, a really good quarterback that could fill the shoes of Carson Palmer, and he's done that. But him and his agent and even some of his fans, and I'm a fan too, but I'm a realistic fan, are acting as if he's the savior of this organization. That's just not true. You didn't bring an organization out of the mud. You didn't bring this organization out of the dust. And you didn't even make the playoffs last season. You made the playoffs this previous season that just passed, and you had a first round exit. Let's talk about that first round exit. So he seems to be blaming everyone that's coming from the organization. He seems to be putting the onus of that loss on everyone except for himself. But when we take time to look at what Kyler Murray did in that playoff game, I conclude that Kyler Murray did absolutely everything but show up. He got dressed, he cried, he complained, he got on the football field, but he did everything but show up for that franchise when he needed to show up. I mean, let's talk about it. He went 19 of 34, 137 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and threw a pick 6 on the first possession of that playoff game. This is why you're here. You're not just here to get them into the playoffs. They won a playoff game back in 2015, as recent as 2016. The Arizona Cardinals won a playoff game. So you haven't even done what the previous quarterback less than a decade ago was able to do for this franchise. 5 years ago was able to do for this franchise. And not only did you not win the game, you looked bad in doing it. So I don't buy into the whole notion that Kyler Murray is somehow responsible for resurrecting, or he has resurrected this franchise. He has not done that. He has not even won a playoff game yet. But yet he seems to be making these what I deem childish demands, and I think it's childish because it's premature. Another thing is this, and I think this is where I'm going to hang my hat, and that is Kyler Murray is not even the most valuable player on his own football team. Kyler Murray is not the most valuable player on his football team. And it was obvious this last half of the season, and it was obvious in that playoff game who's the most valuable player on that football team. The most valuable player on that football team is D-Hop. It is DeAndre Hopkins. Last season, when they was making noise, DeAndre Hopkins was putting up phenomenal numbers. This year, in the few games that he played, he put up great numbers. Only played 5, I believe. Only played 6 full games and had 8 touchdowns, putting up great numbers. But when he got to the playoffs, when it was time to put up or shut up, when it was time for Kyler Murray to finally show us who we thought or who we can believe he can be, he clearly showed that he can't do it unless he has D-Hop out there, unless he has a phenomenal wide receiver out there. And I'm not knocking him for that. Everybody needs somebody, man. Everybody needs somebody. But don't go into the offseason and start to blame everybody except for yourself, except for the man in the mirror, and don't paint this picture of yourself as if the Cardinals need you. I'm sorry. The Cardinals need DeAndre Hopkins, because riddle me this. Could Kirk Cousins go 11-6 with DeAndre Hopkins and the weapons that they have there? I believe so. I believe they can go 11-6. I believe they could go 11-6 or 10-7, even with a Jameis Winston. I surely do, because the Arizona Cardinals have a very serviceable defense. They have a decent O-line, and they have some pretty good weapons, even outside of D-Hop. They got Hurts. They got Kirk. They got AJ Green. They have a good running back. They have a decent running game. They have a football team. And you did everything in playoff time when you could have made your claim for contract extensions and big time money and market money. You missed your opportunity. So what I believe he should have done was put his head down and say, you know what, this year is going to be my make or break contract year. Let me go out and show this organization and show the fans that I can win a playoff game with whoever you put out there with me, or at least make it close. Now, if he would have went out there and lost to that football team, and he would have went out there, instead of going 19 or 34, he went 25 or 34. Instead of going 137 yards, he threw for close to 300 yards. Instead of 0 touchdowns, he was able to put up at least 2 touchdowns and maybe only 1 turnover and maybe 40, 50 yards on the ground. Then you would hear nothing from me. But he didn't even show up. And now he wants the money and to be viewed as the resurrector or as the savior of this franchise. And talk about he wants a contract that's market value. Let's talk about some young quarterbacks who are better than Kyler Murray. Joe Burrow is better than Kyler Murray. Josh Allen is better than Kyler Murray. Deshaun Watson is better than Kyler Murray. And I believe Dak Prescott is better than Kyler Murray. And as a matter of fact, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, and Dak Prescott have 1 playoff win on their record. Kyler Murray has none. Am I a Kyler Murray fan? Yes, but I keep it real. I keep it 100. I think Kyler Murray should just shut up, play this season, ball out of control like we know he's capable of doing, show up when it counts in the playoffs, and get this team a playoff win under his belt. And then we can start talking about contract negotiations and putting it out in the public and painting this narrative as if Kyler Murray is the savior of the franchise. Because right now, he's just a really good shiny piece. He's not the savior. I'll holler at you.